I truly do believe that. There's something wrong with her. She's disturbed, she's unhappy, and she thinks it's about feminism and the patriarchy and about abortion. But the reality is she's just not stable, like the majority of people in Hollywood. They're just not stable human beings. I would highly advise that you boycott this film, no matter how much your children love it.
This truly is the worst casting, maybe, in the history of the film industry. Has there been a film with worse casting than this? And I don't just mean the Snow White actress. Obviously, she's terrible. But
they decided to cast Rachel Zegler, who is Hispanic, as Snow White. Now, again, you can cast people however you want to cast people. I really don't care. However, Snow White, in which the description of the character is skin as white as snow, lips red as the rose, right? I mean, like, there's an actual physical description of the part. Not my fault it's written that way. It ain't racist to write it that way. That's the description of the part. That's what it is. The name of the movie is Snow White, okay?
Behind the scenes mayhem. I expected a Frankenstein's monster where scenes to be stitched together. I think a lot of these live action updates are really hard to watch. They've really done so much stepping on rakes over the last few months with this project where the box office is just not going to recover.
Oh, man. Hello, Disney. You're going to have to redo your film again because this woman is a pig and you fired Gina Carano for far less than this nonsense.
Snow White, there's been an enormous amount of controversy surrounding Snow White, obviously.
Zegler is extraordinarily woke, but she's woke in a way that's quite deranged.
No one on the right side of America can stand the star of this movie.
But you don't seemingly like your own character, so she comes off as an insufferable, whiny brat.
The star, Rachel Zegler, is unbelievably charmless in public.
She was, as woke as they are.
She just sounds bitter and angry.
Welcome back to Hollywood Scoop, where we break down the biggest wins and fails in entertainment. And today, oh boy, do we have a whopper of a fail for you. Grab your popcorn because this is a disaster of fairy tale proportions. We're talking about Disney's Snow White remake. Yes, that one. The one that managed to offend die-hard Disney fans, lose its audience before it even premiered, and become one of the most embarrassing box office bombs in recent history. So, what went wrong? How did Disney take one of its most beloved classics and completely fumble the bag? Today, we're diving deep into the controversy, the bad decisions, the behind-the-scenes drama, and the cultural backlash that turned this highly anticipated reboot into an absolute train wreck. From a lead actress who alienated fans before the film even hit theaters, to bizarre creative decisions that stripped the story of its original charm, to an avalanche of online criticism that only fueled the flames, this is a case study in how not to handle a remake. The fairy tale that started it all, a legacy Disney should have protected. Before we get into the disaster that is the live-action Snow White, let's take a moment to appreciate the legacy of the original film. Released in 1937, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs wasn't just a movie, it was the movie. It was the first full-length animated feature ever made, and it single-handedly launched the Walt Disney Company into the global empire it is today. Back then, Hollywood and critics were convinced that no one would sit through a 90-minute animated movie. Many called it Disney's folly, predicting it would be a financial catastrophe. But Walt Disney, ever the visionary, ignored the naysayers and poured everything he had into the project, both financially and emotionally. When Snow White finally hit theaters, it shattered expectations, earning over $8 million at the box office, an insane amount at the time. Adjusted for inflation, that's over $1.5 billion today. But it wasn't just a financial success. The film became a cultural landmark. The music, the artistry, the heartfelt story. It resonated across generations. Snow White set the template for every Disney princess film that followed, influencing Cinderella, Sleeping Beauty, The Little Mermaid, and Beauty and the Beast. So, when Disney announced a live-action remake, there was hope. The track record for these adaptations had been hit or miss. Some, like Cinderella, 2015, The Jungle Book, 2010, and Aladdin, 2019, were well received. Others, like The Lion King, 2018, and Mulan, 2020, were more divisive, But Snow White? This was the Disney classic. Surely they would do it justice, right? Wrong. Rachel Zegler's PR nightmare, a lead actress who alienated fans. When Rachel Zegler was cast as Snow White, she was already a rising star. She had recently won a Golden Globe for her role in Steven Spielberg's West Side Story, and she was on the fast track to becoming one of Hollywood's new darlings. At first, the casting seemed promising. She had the voice, the acting chops, and the fresh appeal Disney was looking for. But there was just one problem. She couldn't stop talking. Instead of embracing the legacy of Snow White, Zegler seemed to be on a personal mission to tear it down. In interview after interview, she made comments that rubbed longtime Disney fans the wrong way. She called the 1937 film weird and creepy, dismissed the love story as outdated, and even laughed at the idea of a prince saving Snow White. Her words weren't framed as thoughtful criticism. They came off as outright disdain for the original movie and its fans. One of her most infamous moments came when she sarcastically said, "It's not 1937 anymore. She's not going to be saved by the prince. She's not going to be dreaming about true love. She's going to be a leader." Now, modernizing fairy tales can be great when done well. Just look at Frozen, which subverted traditional tropes while still maintaining the Disney magic. But the way Zegler delivered these comments made it sound like she was too good for the role she had been cast in. And the internet did not let it slide. Fans started calling her Snow White for being snobby Snow White. Memes flooded social media, with edited movie posters reading "I hate Snow White, the movie." Even conservative commentators jumped in, using her statements as an example of Hollywood's disconnect with audiences. Instead of promoting the film, Zegler had unintentionally become its biggest liability. The Dwarf's Dilemma, a creative decision that backfired. As if the controversy surrounding Rachel Zegler wasn't enough, Disney also managed to create an entirely separate firestorm over one of the most iconic elements of Snow White, the Seven Dwarfs. These characters weren't just comic relief in the 1937 classic. They were beloved, distinct personalities that played a major role in the story. They each had their own quirks: grumpy, bashful, dopey, and the gang added heart and humor to Snow White's journey. But for some reason, Disney decided that this was the aspect of the movie that needed a complete overhaul. It all started when Game of Thrones star Peter Dinklage publicly criticized the original portrayal of the dwarfs, calling it outdated and offensive. Disney, eager to avoid any controversy, rushed to announce that they would be replacing the Seven Dwarfs with a group of magical creatures. The studio framed this as a progressive move, claiming they wanted to steer clear of stereotypes. But here's the problem. Many actors with dwarfism didn't agree with Dinklage's stance. Several dwarf actors publicly spoke out against Disney's decision, arguing that instead of updating the characters in a respectful way, the studio had simply erased them altogether. Prominent actors in the Little People community pointed out that these roles were some of the most significant Hollywood opportunities for performers with dwarfism. By removing them, Disney was effectively eliminating jobs rather than offering better representation. To make matters even more confusing, leaked set photos later revealed that Disney had cast a random assortment of actors, including regular-sized people, for these new magical creatures. Instead of creating 7 distinct, charming characters with unique personalities, the new group felt completely unmemorable. It was a bizarre move that didn't please anyone. Those who wanted to see faithful renditions of the dwarfs were upset, and those who supported modernization were baffled by Disney's inconsistent approach. This decision added yet another layer of backlash to the film's already crumbling reputation. Fans took to social media to express their disappointment, and it became yet another example of how Disney was making changes just for the sake of making them, rather than putting thought into how to make them better. In trying to avoid offending anyone, Disney managed to frustrate everyone. The box office bomb, one of Disney's biggest failures ever. By the time Snow White finally limped its way into theaters, the damage had been done. The film wasn't just surrounded by controversy. It had been outright rejected by audiences before even seeing the light of day. The months of negative press, combined with the baffling creative choices, resulted in one of the worst box office openings in Disney history. Despite Disney pouring a staggering $270 million into production and marketing, the movie flopped hard, bringing in a mere $43 million on opening weekend. For context, even Dumbo, 2018, another live-action remake that was considered a disappointment, managed to make $45 million. The film didn't just struggle domestically, it failed to gain traction internationally as well. Typically, when a Disney movie underperforms in the US, there's still a chance that overseas markets, especially China, will pick up the slack. But Snow White barely made a dent in foreign box offices. The worldwide total was disastrous, and it became clear that audiences everywhere simply weren't interested. Critics weren't any kinder. While some praised the film's attempt at modernization, most reviews pointed out that it lacked the heart and magic of the original. Many found the movie forgettable, noting that without the classic love story, the iconic dwarfs, or the timeless charm, it felt like just another generic fantasy film. It didn't feel like Snow White. It felt like a soulless, corporate-driven attempt at rebranding something audiences never wanted changed in the first place. Adding insult to injury, the film quickly became meme fodder online. Fans ridiculed its changes, with some joking that the movie should have been titled Snow White and the 7 Bad Decisions. Clips from Rachel Zegler's old interviews resurfaced, fueling more backlash as audiences were reminded of her dismissive attitude toward the original. Ultimately, Snow White will go down as one of Disney's biggest live-action failures. Not just because of the money lost, but because of how completely it alienated its core audience. Instead of creating a fresh, respectful update to a beloved classic, Disney delivered a film that nobody, neither nostalgic fans nor modern audiences, wanted to see. It was a cautionary tale for Hollywood. Mess with the classics at your own risk. So what's the moral of this fairy tale disaster? For starters, don't mess with classics if you don't understand why they were loved in the first place. Disney has been riding the nostalgia wave for years, but if they're going to keep making live-action remakes, they need to respect the source material. Audiences don't just want the name, they want the magic. Maybe don't cast actors who openly dislike the movie they're in. Just a thought. And finally, if you're going to make changes, make them meaningful. Simply removing beloved elements in the name of modernity isn't enough. You need to replace them with something better. So, what do you think? Was Rachel Zegler the real problem? Or was the entire concept doomed from the start? Could Disney have salvaged this, or was it destined to fail? Let me know in the comments. And if you love deep dives like this, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon for more Hollywood drama breakdowns. Until next time, stay tuned, stay safe. See you in the next one.